So if you have a gun on your hip in a public place, what would you call that?
Do you know the
What would
difference
you call
between
that?
concealed carry and open carry?
Or a public
Yeah, you
place in
conceal-
Or a
private.
public place in a private location?
You said it was on your hip.
You don't know the difference between open carry and concealed carry. So again, I've made a lot of arguments.
No, I'm not. I'm still going to ask you the question because I have people in the military serving right now.
It's irrelevant. Let's discuss our arguments.
You said that you actually believe that our government's going to come take our guns. You believe that's why?
No,
you
I
don't
didn't
wanna...
say I believe they will. I didn't say they will. You said, is there the possibility? You said, do I believe there's a possibility? Of course, there's always that possibility. And the how?
How?
Okay, are you aware of the? Okay? What happened in Australia? Don't get into what happened. What happened with the gun buyback program? What was it?
It was a buyback program, and you got to keep your guns and grandfather.
No, it was a mandatory buyback program. Okay.
And
so, what would you call a mandatory buyback program?
It wasn't mandatory.
It was a mandatory buyback program.
No,
it was a mandatory buyback program. I'm giving you at least one answer here, so let me finish giving you an answer. It was a mandatory. You can say it's not. It was a mandatory buyback program that could easily be implemented.
Just can't stay on the rails. What you said that you believe that our country, that if you had your gun registered, that there could be government tyranny and they would take your guns. Okay. Now, that you said it's happening. Do you think it's going to happen?
No, that's not what I said, though. That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
I'd have listened. Yes, you did. I'm sitting right here. I am sitting right here.
I said the gun registry would go against the very concept and intent as expressly outlined both in the Second Amendment and adjunct documents regarding its necessity
where does it say
to fight off tyranny.
Where does it say that? You tell me where it says anything about registration and tracking the weapons of the American citizenry. You tell me where it says that.
Do you not believe that the Second Amendment? Well, no. The point is you're saying it's a living, breathing document. The point of the Second Amendment is for all people to have the right to bear arms for personal protection and to fight off tyranny. Yes.
Right. Where does it say anything about not registering with the government?
Yes.
Yes. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So, would not registering the firearms with a potential tyrannical government defeat that purpose?
It's what I said in my last comedy special. How can they come take your guns if you have guns?
If they have it registered, they can send in men with more guns to take your guns away.
Right, but they can do that now.
No.
Yeah, they can. They can.
No, they can't.
The Boston line. Oh, yeah, they could if they wanted to. In your
then what's the purpose of a registry then? Why push for it?
Well, why not have it? That would be a well-regulated...
Because I don't believe your premise.
Militia, you still haven't answered the question. How is it going to happen? I've asked you, how do you think... You can't answer. You think our civilians...
I just gave you an example of a mandatory buyback program that could happen here.
No, it couldn't happen here. It couldn't happen here. It won't happen here. We have 330 million guns. The population of Australia is what? What, 36 million
But
total?
you just use it to compare violent crime rates. So it's not convenient.
Finish. It's a lot easier to control guns. Australia is a bad example on both sides. You know why? Because Australia is surrounded by water, and you can control the import of guns easy. In America, you can't. So Australia is a bad example. I'll give you that one. Across the board, on both sides of the argument.
Okay, but you used it earlier, so you would relent that wasn't a good example because you said it only went up 3% violent crime.
Well, no, I'm just answering your question. In Canada, too, 3%. Yeah, you want to go Denmark.
But the point is it didn't decrease crime.
You have one
The point is it didn't decrease crime. And for you to remove a fundamental right, for example, of someone like me who requires a firearm for safety, for you to remove the right from people requires you to prove that it would be something amendable in the Constitution because it's irreconcilable with the rest of the document, and B, you'd have to justify that to prove that it would decrease gun violence for your argument to hold water. You've done neither of those.
I'm sorry, I only have 7 or 8 countries that shows it statistically, but okay, all right, that's fine. I'll give it to you. You still answer the question. What
country statistically? You still haven't given me violent crime rates decreasing in a country. Japan? You just talked about tyranny, and now you're using Japan?
Oh my God, Japan is...
Do you not think that those people would have liked to have been armed in Japan under an imperialistic authoritarian government? Thank you for making my point.
Just because you chuckle like a 3-year-old does not mean...
You came on the show laughing. Your very first words were, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, but just because you
Incorrect? Is that incorrect?
No, I'm asking you. Are you saying Japan people are different than ours? Is that what you're saying? You still haven't answered the question.
I'm saying the history of Japan is vastly different and much bloodier, and it is not a country that has ever been free. Absolutely, your floor.
I may not make you cry, but I've sure made you walk away from the point you're trying to make.
I just addressed your point. Yes, they are different. Yes, they are different. Yes, they are different. Your point. Yes, they are different. The government is different. The culture is different. The history is different. They're not a free people. They're different. Your point.
So they kill more without guns, or they kill less without guns? What are you saying?
The government has killed far more people in a tyrannical fashion in Japan in recent history than has ever occurred in the United States.
What are you talking about?
Japan is an imperialistic nation, and I'm not just talking about World War II. They've never gotten their shit right, Chris.
Oh my, that's an opinion.
No.
That's an opinion.
That's history. Japan's not an imperialistic nation?
Japan doesn't have their shit together?
Japan is not an authoritarian nation where people are not free? Does freedom of speech exist in Japan?
Oh my God, dude.
Does freedom of speech exist in Japan? No, because they're different. It exists in the United States. We're different. I answered your question.
They do have freedom of speech in Japan.
No, of course they don't.
They have it in Canada. They have it in Sweden.
No, they don't. They don't have it in Canada, and they don't have it in Sweden.
Bullshit.
Freedom of speech is not a fundamental human right in Canada, nor Sweden, nor the UK, nor in Japan. It's not. That's a verifiable fact.
Actually not an inalienable right here either. It's actually an amendment. It's actually not an inalienable right. So you're actually, we don't have it.
It is a right, and you just said it's not. It is a right there. It is not a right in those countries. You do not have the right to freedom of speech.
Have it here either. And if actually people were using their freedom of speech to get other people killed, that might get amended too. So let me ask you, how do you think the government's going to come take our...
Hold on a second. You just bounce around from a point.
Question, Crowder. For God's sake, you talk a lot of smack.
I think you're very mentally unstable, Chris.
No,
you're the one who's yelling here and screaming and going on Twitter and recording phone calls and bringing up hypotheticals. I answered your question. Yes, I think we're different from Japan.
No, the question was...
No, that was your question. You asked it and I answered it. Fair?
You've never... No, you keep
Are we
changing.
different from those people? Yes. But historically, culturally, governmentally. Yes.
I asked you a question you're continually trying to avoid. Now, I'm going to be calm right now, and you're going to answer it. I'm going to ask you one more time. How do you think our government is going to take our guns away?
That's not the question you just asked. I already answered that question. So let's move on to it. Yes, I did. I talked about the Australian buyback. I talked about fighting off tyranny and as becoming a nation. I've talked about all those things. You don't like those answers, but I've given those answers. You've then... Okay, Jared, hold on. Let me finish this here. This isn't fair. Let me lower the mic here so I can make my point because he keeps interrupting. Then your question was... Do you believe these people are different? So he asked me, do you think it could happen in the United States? I said, I don't think it will. It can. I listed how it can. Then you said you believe we're different from Japan. I answered exactly yes and how. So I've answered your questions. Now I have a question for you because that's not right for you to simply interrupt and say I didn't answer your questions when I answered your questions.
You didn't answer my question. Not one time. How do you think the government's going to take this away?
I answered your question. I already answered your question. I'm not going to re-answer. I answered about the Australian gun buyback program. I answered about fighting off tyranny. And I answered the fact that it is irreconcilable with the Constitution and the intent of the Second Amendment to register your guns with the federal government. You don't like the answer, but I answered it. So let me ask you some questions now.
You did.
Let's act as though... so you believe that...
Wait, man, it's amazing. You're amazing.
Can I ask some questions?
I'm going to applaud you because you know every trick book of avoiding any answer. I asked you to tell me how the government, if the government tyrannical on us...
Okay, I never want to do this. But Jared, I never bring in someone because it's just them and I debating, so it's an open forum, which I think Chris would agree is fair. It's just been him and I. Did I not answer that question? I want to be clear because I feel like I answered exactly Australian gun buyback program. It's irreconcilable with the Constitution, the intent of fighting off tyranny. Did I not answer that question? I want to be clear here. Okay, we've answered it. And
how are they going to make you turn your guns in? How's the government going to make you turn your guns in?
Why after I answer? Now you're going more in depth into a question that you said I didn't answer. So now let's get back to the point. What do you believe the Second Amendment is to be, and how do you justify forcing people to register their firearms? Hold on a second. No, this isn't. No. You said I don't care about 32,000 dead Americans in front of the flag. You called me a pussy.
You are a pussy right now. You're being a pussy.
It's a big. Okay. I mean, come on. Listen. Let's again. He says I'm a pussy, right? He's got his combat taekwondo. I mean, come on, man. You come on trying to play tough guy. I've been fair. You've been the one yelling and screaming. No one else is yelling and screaming. I think you're a little unhinged because I've answered your questions.
I'm unhinged because you know why 32,000 Americans are dead, and that you're not unhinged about that is kind of upsetting. That the entire
I'm unhinged that you would expose more people to be completely disarmed and hurt and murdered and raped.
You had one study that showed that more guns equaled less death. One.
I didn't bring up any study regarding that.
I know you didn't, but you don't. You keep fighting that we need to not change.
But you just said
this.
I have one study. I didn't bring up that study.
Let me just say what I'm going to say. Just let me say it. You keep unhinged as someone who doesn't let someone else talk. So you didn't answer the question about how. If you think our military is going to come take our guns or make us participate in a buyback program, that's crazy. My family's military, and there's no way in hell.
I didn't say that.
I know you didn't say this. I'm letting you know. Whatever you think.
But you just said you think that the military would do this. I didn't say I think that.
Well, how do you think it's going to happen? A buyback
you
program?
You asked me again.
Who's participating in that? Oh, Jesus.
You asked me for potential scenarios where I was talking about the Second Amendment and its intent. I don't need to answer all of your hypothetical scenarios to verifiably prove that the Second Amendment is about combating tyranny and personal protection. I don't need to do that.
You believe that a national registry would actually make it so the government could take our guns. You actually said that it would actually, the Constitution backs up, so if it's against a tyrannical government that's going to come take our guns. And I asked, how is that going to happen? And you still can't answer it.
No, you're misrepresenting the argument.
Australia, which was totally different. No, I'm not. I'm saying,
Chris, is it fair when here's the difference? Okay, here's something. I think we're having a miscommunication issue. When I answer, can I answer? When I answer your, can I answer? Can I?
Yeah.
Can I go?
The question: How our government can take us over?
No.
Answer.
I'm not answering that. I'm answering something. You just an accusation you just lobbed. Okay. Here's the thing. When I take the floor, you're asking questions. When I take the floor, I answer them, and then when you take the floor, you take the opportunity to speak for me and misrepresent what I've said. I'm not doing that with you.
You've interrupted everything I've started to say.
I've not made your argument for you. I've allowed you to make your own arguments. You are making false arguments that I've never made here. I didn't bring up that statistic. I didn't say that I believe the United States military is going to do that. I didn't do any of those things.
You said that you believe that we shouldn't have a gun registry program because the government could come take our guns. And I asked, how would they do that? And you can't answer that question.
No, that is not what I said. And I did answer your question. Again, so this is going to be the final time, and then I would like to move on. So I'm going to answer your question one final time, as in-depth as humanly possible. Please, let me answer it. Okay, Not Gay Jared, we have this here. I want to make sure that I answered it before. I said that, of course, I am against a firearm registry because that goes against the entire point and intent of the Second Amendment, designed to protect all people for personal protection and, of course, against a tyrannical government. I did not say that I believed that was going to happen. I did not say that I believe the military will come in and take your guns away. You then asked me for a hypothetical as to how it could possibly happen. And I gave you an example of the Australian buyback program. As an example, again, we're dealing in hypotheticals. So that's a hypothetical of a hypothetical because I'm trying to entertain you with that. That is my answer. Let's move on to another issue. So you believe that people...
What you just stated is not accurate. You actually said the word domestic tyranny, and I said, so you think England's going to take us? You said no, domestic. So you still haven't answered the question when I asked how it was going to happen. You brought up a country that you said isn't the same as us, but when it fits your argument, you're fine to bring them.
I brought it up. Well, you used them as an argument first, and that's why I went back to them.
Let's move on.
So yeah, I think I've answered the question fairly adequately.
Not even close.
Okay. Well, let's make sure. You've given no facts or statistics, and you've drawn hypotheticals and made arguments for me and said that I don't care about 32,000 dead.
32,000 dead a year. Not a hypothetical, my friend.
Well, no, it is hypothetical to ask me about how the United States government would do it, or if I would rather be shot in an alley or cancel my American Express. Let me move on here. So you've given a comprehensive plan. So you said that we're, Denmark, Japan. You don't believe the Second Amendment is for all people to protect against. I want to make clear.
I never said that.
I want to make clear. That's why I said I want to make clear. I'm asking. What do you believe the Second Amendment is for then?
I think the Second Amendment was written at a time when we were worried about being attacked by other major nations. We were a brand new nation starting out. We didn't have a lot to defend ourselves. And the Second Amendment was written so that everybody had a weapon in case England came back, in case Spain tried to invade us. That's why it was written.
So it wasn't written, so there would be no proof of the Founding Fathers admitting that even they themselves could become tyrannical, and it was written to protect the people from even them, like George Washington.
Who's doing hypotheticals now?
No, I'm saying these are actual quotes. I have them up at louderwithcrowder.com.
Okay, let me finish. Are you denying? I'm not going to interrupt you anymore.
Let me finish. Yeah, these are actual quotes from the Founding Fathers. They said, of course, it is for the entire people, and no government will disarm its own people. The people have the right to protect themselves against even us, the government. These are quotes from George Washington, George Mason, Thomas Jefferson, Madison. Right. So they made sure it wasn't, well, you just said about England. It was about the United States government as well.
No,
George
you
Washington is a
said-
fascinating
you
character.
said it was about England, and I said,
You
do you
just
think
said
England can attack us?
You said it was written because they thought of outside threats. Spain, England. I said, no, it was written, and they specifically wrote that it was also for domestic threats, including themselves.
So your only defense on 32,000 Americans dead is the Second Amendment and something that was written 200 years ago. No, I'm asking because that's all you're saying. So
no,
you're going to
no, I've said that I don't believe that your proposal would decrease gun crime, and you just lied about the Second Amendment.
No, I did not lie about it. I did not.
You said it was written in a time for outside threats in Spain and England, and I just gave you examples of how it was written for domestic tyranny, including by George Washington, Jefferson, Madison, Mason, Adams. They said it could be us. That's why you all need to be armed. So it wasn't written for foreign entities. It was written for the United States.
Yes, but it wasn't originally. No, actually wasn't.
Yes,
it was actually for a tyrannical government like England.
No.
Do you think we have a tyrannical
No, it didn't say
government?
like England. Just like you said, what does it say?
Do you think we have a tyrannical government?
No, again, we've already answered that question. Could it be potentially? Absolutely. Any government can become tyrannical. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, this argument, by the way, it would have to be our military would have to take our guns. Ain't going to happen. Civilian military families wouldn't happen.
And why do you think it wouldn't happen?
And let's say if they were tyrannical,
why do you think it wouldn't happen?
Because I know the military families. I've actually went to Iraq twice, and I will tell you one thing: there's not a chance.
It's not an argument.
Oh, it is an argument. I have a colonel. I have actually.
The reason they can't is because of an entirely armed populace. That's why they can't take away everyone's guns.
So you're saying that our military, if we weren't armed, would turn on us? Okay, got it.
No.
So moving. Well, that's what you just said. You didn't say it, but you're alluding to that. You're alluding to that. But okay, let me finish. So
no, hold on a second. Didn't you just talk about former military who shot 5 in Dallas?
My father-in-law was an Army colonel and did
security.
security.
You're talking about former military shot someone in Dallas. So there are some people who would be willing to do it, right? Not all, but some.
Shot cops. Oh, are you bringing up a psychopath that actually? Are you bringing up a psychopath that
my
had
point
PTSD?
is he was former military.
Are you comparing our military to a psychopath?
The reason,
with PTSD?
no,
you
the reason.
All our military's got PTSD and a psychopath.
I didn't say that. You said because you used a personal example saying you've no military. Listen, I've entertained the troops as well. I've gone over to Guantanamo Bay. I've done the tours.
Shooter in Dallas. What a psychopath. Are you serious? Is that the first time I bring up military? So you're comparing all our military plus my kind of
No, I'm not.
Who's the bombs?
No, I'm not.
Then why would you bring that up first?
Because you said, I know people who wouldn't do it. I know people who would.
Not one of our military would do it. He wasn't in the military. He had PTSD.
The reason there is no possibility of that is because of the Second Amendment.
It's amazing how hard you have to backpedal to fight your argument. But let me finish this.
What backpedal? I didn't backpedal anything.
Clear something. I want to be clear something. We can agree on something. I believe Americans should have guns. I believe it's in our DNA. I believe it goes back to the beginning of our country, and I believe to get rid of them not only would be untenable, but impossible. So here's what I'll say. So we put together a gun registry. Everybody has guns.
Yeah, I'm already against it, but go.
I got it. I know I got it. But here's the thing. 32,000 Americans dead. What are you willing to do to keep your guns and stop that?
What are you? Yeah, okay. I'm willing to do.
Let me finish. Please let me finish.
Well, I thought you just asked me a question. That's why I didn't mean to interrupt. You asked a question. Go ahead.
It's just put it rhetorical. Just leave it rhetorical.
Okay. I'm just trying to make it sure.
I'm going to talk for a minute, then you can talk, and I appreciate the time you're giving me. I got to tell you, man, I really appreciate this. I hate that I'm yelling. You know what I hate more than anything? I hate being part of the din of the of left and right or whatever, because I'm not left. I'm an independent 100%. I've got my cars do more damage to the ozone than anything I own. So let me finish. So here's what I'm saying. We get to stop the 32,000 dead and to stop crazy people from getting guns, like my mother, like the guy in Dallas, like Jared Loeffner, like all these people. We have some serious common sense gun rules in place. Number one, federal registry. I know you don't like it, but whatever. I got it. That's what I'm pitching.
Well, it's not common sense. That's the point. You can't say it's common sense if there's a valid argument against it. Go ahead.
No, it is common sense. 100%. Deadly weapons should be registered. Cars are registered. Everyone brings up the car gun argument. Cars are registered.
A car's not a constitutional right, and a car actually is far more dangerous than a gun, and actually is more dangerous actively. You cannot have a gun and use it. You cannot have a car and use it passively. I can have a gun at my hip, to use your term, and to use your example, if I do have a gun in the studio, and it's passive. It is a threat to no one. I cannot drive from point A to point B without putting other people at risk. Cars are much more dangerous.
Nope. Billions of miles done every week on the roads, 3 feet apart from road, doing 80 miles an hour, totally passive. So anyway, moving on.
No, that's not true.
That is true.
That's not true. It's not a passive endeavor, is my point. Someone is inherently at risk when you are driving on a freeway. That's why there are far more car fatalities. No one is at risk for a firearm resting on my hip. No one else is at greater risk, but they are if I'm driving on the road, period. Come on, we both acknowledge that. Let's find that common ground.
Oh, we don't acknowledge that. Actually, statistically, owning a gun makes you 60% more likely to get shot or shoot somebody near you. That's how it is. So moving on.
Well, what are the chances of hurting someone if you drive a vehicle or getting into a vehicle crash?
I've been driving for 40 years, and I haven't hit anybody.
But will we acknowledge that probably higher than 60% driving? The chance of hurting somebody? Okay.
Not even close. If you compare miles to...
I'm against the registry, but here's my point. You don't get to say common sense. But here's the point. Here's why it matters. Here's why it matters real quick, and then I'll let you finish. This is very important. This is very important, Chris, if we want to find common ground. Genuinely, okay? Mm-hmm. When you say, I don't want to be yelling, I don't want to be a part of this, okay? But
part of the rest of the idiots that yell back and forth like we've been doing.
When you say that,
right,
respectfully, there is no way to have a dialogue when you say everyone should support these common sense measures, and if people don't, okay, well, if you say common sense, what implies it implies that someone else doesn't have any common sense if they oppose it. When you call someone a pussy, when you come on laughing, when you say someone's running and ducking, whereas you know as well as I that there are scheduling issues, when you say you're going to make someone cry, the point is, if you want to have a discussion, these aren't steps that are taken. And in this thing, you're the only one who's been yelling. But go ahead and finish your point.
It's interesting. It's interesting how you frame things, because when it comes down to it, this is all 3-year-olds arguing. I don't want to be a 3-year-old anymore. Here's what I want. I want people to actually get to a place where maybe we can stop some of the killing, and you can still have your gun. So National Registry. So it's not. If you don't think it's common sense to have a deadly weapon register, okay, I get it. I'll let you have that. I'll let you have that. So let's do this. So we basically, let's say next to the DMV, because cars and guns, right? We put another thing. It's got a firing range on it. It's got licensed psychiatrists. It's got people who sit down and register your weapon. And basically what you do, and you go pay a fee. Now, you go pay a fee, which is another tax. All guns are registered. We have a federal rule. We have federal safety rules, just like cars. And then you get to go into the DMV. And here's where I think we can actually have a real well-regulated militia that would never let anything. Tyranny wouldn't happen. You go into the range, because there's a lot of people right now that are open carrying in Denny's. I see it on the news here and there, and I just think, why are you doing that? You're just basically bringing danger into a place that doesn't have any. You want to open carry, go open carry in a high crime rate area. That's it. Don't go into Denny's.
So crime rate area, forgive me while you say that, like a Luby's, like Dawson College in Canada, like Virginia Tech, like churches.
Right.
Would these not be considered safe areas?
You know, crazy is going to happen. It's just going to happen. It even happened in Canada.
You said don't carry in a Denny's. My point is that evil occurs anywhere.
No, you carry concealed wherever you want. Some 18-year-old wearing a Leonard Skinner T-shirt carrying a long rifle over his shoulder. Really, in a Denny's, you really need that? You think you need it? Is that common sense? I'm sorry. Did I cross?
I didn't argue that's common sense.
Okay, good. That's all I'm saying. You know the guys I'm talking about.
Well, no, honestly, genuinely, I didn't, because you said carrying in a Denny's.
Okay.
No, I'm saying I genuinely didn't know you were talking about those people. I thought you were talking about people who carry, for example, if I go to Denny's, I would be carrying.
If you spend all the time getting concealed carry, you actually care enough to go through the process. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it. So we do like a gun DMV. You get to go in. There's 4 different levels. You go in, you have to qualify with the weapon, just like you have to take a driving test. Because you don't want some guy that can't handle a weapon, that doesn't know the safety aspects of it, couldn't take it apart, put it back together. So you have to do that in front of somebody. Then you have to actually go on the range. If you have to hit, let's say, 18 out of 20 center mass to be qualified. And then we have 4 or 5 different levels. We go shooter level, and then we go bronze, silver, gold. Now, all those guys in a platinum level shooter, you have to hit 150 center mass in a row. Mm-hmm. At that level, and then you get a platinum card, you're that kind of shooter. Right now, what we have in this country, we have 90% of our country going, anybody with a gun is an idiot. I don't believe that. I have some really, really, really amazingly close relatives that are amazing with weapons.
Right, but what was that? 90% what?
90% want gun laws changed. 90% want something done. But
you said 90% think anyone with a gun is an idiot. I don't understand what you're saying.
No, I said people have a thing that if you're carrying a gun and complaining about guns, you have. No one's facing the fact that 32,000 are dead. So let me finish. Don't get sidetracked. Don't get me sidetracked. So basically, you qualify. Now, everybody's got a platinum card, right? See these guys that can shoot 125 center mass. Those people would form clubs. They would actually have, what are you, a platinum card holder? My God. They'd have all these guys together. They'd have gold members, platinum members. We'd have a level. And those levels basically would be a well-regulated militia. And then it would be, instead of some guy carrying a gun at a Denny's, if a guy had a gun, you'd be like, no, that dude's well qualified to have a gun. That would change it. The psych eval really needs to happen because, and they do it in Australia, they do it in a couple other countries. It makes a big difference. I think we could stop a lot of this if we just got smart about it, and we're not smart about it. To keep things the way they were 200 years ago doesn't make sense.
Okay, may I respond? Every single measure that you just proposed requires the trust that the government will do it properly, efficiently, safely, and will always be acting on behalf of the people. I will tell you this, I do not have that much faith in a centralized government.
So based on that, on the best country in the world, the biggest GDP in the world, that people come here from all over the world, rush here to live here, you actually believe with 330 million people and none of this happening that you still can't trust your government?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then we're never going to see it.
I don't believe that you should ever give that much trust to a government. Certainly not your right to self-preservation. I'm being honest with you about it.
I didn't say give it up. I said actually show that you're actually capable.
I don't believe that I am beholden to a government to exercise my right to self-preservation. But I'm being honest about it. We just disagree.
You don't think that there should be any standard to own a deadly weapon?
There already is a standard. You cannot purchase a gun if you are a felon or a violent criminal. You can't.
Okay. But if
we already have laws in place. I don't believe. So again, let me address. You just brought up a lot of points. Let me answer because it's important. Because you just had the floor for 5 minutes, Chris. Okay?
Go ahead.
I do not have that much trust in government. I do not want to entrust the government who has selectively targeted people for auditing, who have selectively put people on a no-fly list completely arbitrarily. We can both agree on that. Ted Kennedy, we've seen people who were put on that list just for
25 years ago. 20 years ago that happened. Or 10, 15 years ago.
Many people are constantly put. Okay, Stephen Hayes was put on, I think, last year. Many people we know, many people publicly have come out who have been on the no-fly list, including members who I know very well and personally. Again, let me finish my point. I do not trust the government who, again, run the DMV, the post office, Medicare, areas welfare. These areas that are wildly inefficient, wildly in debt, and generally are pretty unliked by the general public. I do not trust them with my psych evaluation. I do not trust them with my right to self-preservation. And because of the Second Amendment and because of the Constitution, just like I don't have to justify what I say, when I say, where I say it, if I am a law-abiding citizen, I do not have to justify to the United States federal government my right to self-preservation.
Right. So you think that we should have no laws in the third? I'm just asking.
Didn't say that. Christopher Titus, thank you for being here, sir. We must go at Titus Nation. Is there another plug that's better for you?
At Titus Nation on Twitter, guys. We'll keep arguing this. If you want to listen to Titus podcast, and I got a movie coming out. Especially, you'll think it's really funny. I shoot a gun in it.
Well, what's funny about that one too? I know people are really mad about it because it's about special needs police officers or someone who
No,
works
it's not. Well, I have friends that are disabled and they never get a shot in Hollywood. So what we did is I wrote this movie. The premise is, due to the Fairness and Disabilities Act, the LAPD has to hire 4 handicapped undercover detectives, and I play Nick Nolte's mugshot pretty much. And basically, we gave these disabled actors jobs and showed that they can really kick ass. And
you're going to get a lot of flack from the left who don't support the First Amendment, and I will be there defending you when it happens.
That's why when people say liberal, Hollywood liberal, I'm so not. I just want to stop some of the dead.
But you are a big government liberal who trusts a lot more to government than I do. And I don't think it's an unfair characterization. It's just a disagreement.
I'll tell you this. I live in a country where I get to say what I want when I want on stage, and no one's ever burst into a comedy club when I body slam the government and come in and stop you. They haven't stopped you. They haven't stopped you. They've never, Waco aside, that was quite a while ago.
Well, that's not true.
They haven't really shut us down. They don't, man. You get to do what you. America, you can go where you want.
That's actually not true, though. I mean, you don't know my history as far as being audited or points of view or what's happened.
I know you're Canadian.
Dual citizen, born in Detroit, raised in Montreal, from 3 to 18.
All I'm saying is that, yes, our government has its issues, but if you compare it to every other government in the world, we do pretty damn good.
And you know why?
And I know my soldiers, and my family are soldiers, and I got to tell you, I trust them implicitly. If Mitch
the
McConnell
reason we are
shows,
that great of a nation is because the government is bent. You know what the government is built on here? It's built on a centralized mistrust of government. Thank you very much, Christopher Titus. At
Thanks,
Titus
man.
Nation, we'll have you back when you do that film. I definitely would love to have you back. And there you go, everyone listening. I don't know if this is on radio or just the web, but Louder with Crowder. Stay tuned for more. Or, I don't know. We might just, I don't know. We'll come take your guns away. All right. Hey, you're still here. That's surprising. I'm not going to lie. This is the internet. Most people have an attention span of 4 seconds. But this is a clip taken from the full weekly videocast podcast. You can click below to watch that full videocast or subscribe on iTunes or SoundCloud. Click my face to go to louderwithcrowder.com where there are more articles than you could read in a lifetime, or click below me where there's another video. It's shorter because I know you're busy and you have things to do, like find pants.